So, Kenneth Walker, Super Bowl MVP, is gone. Boye Mafe, gone. Riq Woolen, gone. And Coby Bryant, gone. The Seahawks have just won the Super Bowl, and they've watched their four key contributors walk out of the door. So my question is, should we be worried about John Schneider and Mike Macdonald? To have the answers, who knows? Welcome to Seahawks Across the Pond. I'm Lewis.
And I'm Connor. We are two Seahawks fans based right here in the UK, bringing you honest takes, proper analysis, and zero filter on everything Seahawks. This is episode 1. We are just getting started.
Let's get into it. Cool. So welcome to Seahawks Across the Pond in collaboration with the Across the Pond Sports Network. This is a podcast for Seahawks fans on this side of the Atlantic. So all of our 12s are in Europe as well. We're a new show, so if you are listening, we really appreciate it. It means a lot. We'd love for you to subscribe and leave a like and put something in the comments for us as well. And a little bit about me is this is a new podcast. I've been a Seahawks fan for over 15 years. I coach for 2 American football teams in London, and hoping that experience helps me to share some insight with you all as well.
In episode 1 today, we're going to do 2 things. First, we're setting the scene. We'll give you our take on where this franchise actually stands right now, coming off a Super Bowl win. Then we're getting into what happened in free agency, who walked, why they walked, and whether we think the front office got it right. On to a little bit about me. I've been a Hawks fan for 13 years, seen the highs and lows of our great team. I also played American football at a university level in Swansea for the Swansea Titans for 3 years. I played DB there, and when I stopped playing, I also helped coach the DB unit, and I still am in contact with a few of the guys now, so that's quite nice.
Awesome. Just to let all you guys out there know what to expect from this podcast going forward, we'll try to bring you weekly episodes, give you a mix of what's going on around the league, a proper deep dive into the Hawks, and leave some room to tell you what we think, including all of the hot takes. So let's get right into the first bit. So I guess I'll jump in here, Connor, and I'll just start with how the season ended, right? So we finished 14-3, number 1 seed in the NFC, going to the Super Bowl, beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl, which felt nice considering how it ended last time against the Patriots. Yeah. But it feels like there was loads of success within the season, but also started out a little bit rocky. So why don't you talk us through a little bit how you analyzed the first few games of the season, what you thought about it?
So, start of last season, it was a bit weird seeing Sam Darnold sign. I think every Seattle fan was the same. They were very question marks around what was going on. But obviously, John gets it right every time. He knows what's going on. So, that was a big deal as well. 33 million a year is a lot of money. So I just fingers crossed that he had it right. And going into week 1, losing to the Niners, that was, I thought, okay, we're in for a long, hard season. But sort of a good win against Pittsburgh. I think K9 had a good game as well, which sort of boosted some sort of confidence, I think, for the whole team and the fan base. And then a big scoreline against the Saints, which was good. I think that sort of even more sort of settled us down. And I thought we were going to go on a good little run then. And we got a good win against Arizona, but then the loss against the Bucks came. Close game, but we still lost. But I think then you could see that there was something forming defensively. I think Mike Macdonald is a defensive coach. You got Aiden Durda, who's a defensive coach, and he comes from London. He's a Brit, but he knows his stuff. So I thought what they did to that point of the season was very, very good. And then after that, the defense showed after that when we won Jacksonville, and then the Texans, and then Washington, and then the Cardinals again. You know, and we didn't concede a massive amount of points in those games, considering the Texans are still over. A lot of people in the fan base think that the Texans are number one defense. You know, and they conceded 27 points to our offense when we're not offensively as good as the defense. So I thought that was a good statement win, and I think people realised then that this is a good team. You know, the loss in week 11 against the Rams, again 2 points. If Myers hits that kick, that's a run of like 14, 15 games in a row won. So, you know, to see the season out then, week 12 Titans win, week 13 Vikings win, week 14 Atlanta win, week 15 the Colts in a tight one, week 16 the Rams, that Eric Saubert catch for the 2-pointer, the Carolina game, the Niners game. We saw the season out very, very well, and I think from the start of the season to the end of the season was two definite different sides of Seattle football. But I think we've established now that we are one of the best teams in the league, and that defense is the best in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think that week one loss against the Niners at home really stung. But I think it's, you know, a team that's struggling to find its identity at week one. You've got a brand new quarterback in there, and we showed some really good fight. It was a really close game. You know, defense really held them. We just needed to see a little bit more about out of the offense there, and I'm pretty sure there was a field goal in it. So that could have gone either way. That could have been, you know, a sweep against the Niners there, which would have made the division feel a whole lot different. But you're right, you know, like Baker Mayfield and the Bucks, they came in. That was that was an entertaining game. That was a shootout. They were both just marching up and down the field. Almost, you know, neither defense could stop neither offense. So it was really impressive there. But what I sort of started to see after that was a mindset change, and I'm pretty sure Julian Love mentioned something about it. You know, watching his press conferences after that game, going into the game afterwards, just about how they were like, okay, yeah, we got whooped. It was a solid game, but now we need to come together as a team. And I think that's something that Mike's just really nailed. You know, with this particular squad. I don't know if you've read it, but the reporter that covers the Seahawks, Michael Sean Dugai, wrote a book called The Franchise about the Seahawks and about the Pete Carroll and LOB era. And reading this book and about how Pete found these guys from, you know, almost, you know, bottom of the depth charts and other teams, but he always just went for that competition. You know, his slogan was always compete, wasn't it? So he didn't mind the personality of the guys, and that, you know, and you know, they just had to compete. That's all he cared about. But I think the difference with Mike is he's really built this composed team. And I think after that loss against the Buccaneers, we really saw that. And, you know, all the way throughout the year, you go to that Rams game, like you said, there's 2-point wild Rams games with the Eric Solbert catch, the Zach Charbonnet backwards pass off the helmet, picking up the ball in the end zone. It's because they're disciplined, and it's because they've got it about them. You know, he finished that play. And people will say, you know, what they're going to say, and say that there was no way that was a 2-point conversion. But I couldn't hear a whistle. The pass is backwards. You can see it goes a yard behind where Sam Darnold is, just bounces off the helmet. It's unfortunate. Great play. Pretty sure it's Jared Verse, right? Great play by Jared Verse to do that. But just something about Mike and how he's come in, and, you know, how he's disciplined everybody. He's got everyone on the same sheet, you know, singing from the same hymn sheet. You've got MOB, you know, Mission Over BS coming through, and you've really got like that competitive drive, but without the selfishness and ego that comes with it. And I genuinely don't know how he's done it. He's clearly built a really good staff, and that's something we'll walk on to later. Is how is his staff changed, and how are they going to continue to kind of, you know, bring that same mindset that he's built. So it was really interesting. You know, I feel like every time I spoke to him, every time I heard from him in press conferences, it was like stoic. He was kind of like robotic, but that's because he doesn't want to change the way things are, right? He wants it to be the same every day. They practice the same way, they play the same way. And I think that really came out. And we were underdogs. I remember people saying we were going to be the bottom of the NFC West when the season started. So it's really interesting how things played out, and the absolute cinema that played out throughout the playoffs. Going back to the Niners and then going against the Rams. It was just an incredible division. So yeah, I think that's a really good you know rundown of how the season ended. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this season goes. We've had a number of departures leave the team, so why don't we jump into a couple of them
Yeah,
and
let's get into it.
discuss who left. So why don't you take
Yeah,
away the free agents that left, shall we?
yeah. So we all know Super Bowl MVP gone. I mean, as a pure loyal Hawks fan, that one hurt a bit. I think it did hurt because I think he would die for the team. He'd make sure he finishes every run with his head down. He would always fight for yards. He'd never give up on anything. So that was quite tough. But I do feel Charbonnet is also a very, very similar player.
Yeah.
So I think in John's head, I think that's probably why he lets him walk. I think because he was confident that Charbonnet could take that number one role up. But we also got to consider that he drafted Jadarian Price. So, and Jadarian Price is a like for like player for K9. So I think it was good business to make him walk. But like I said, it hurt a bit because I'm a big fan of K9, and I think the grit he's got and the finish he got in his runs is the explosiveness he's got is that's something you want in your team. So
Yeah.
I think for a business and in hindsight now, I think he's got it right. Having Jadarian Price and Charbonnet there while not paying Walker, I think he knows what he's doing. I think that's a good, very, very good decision by John, I will say.
Yeah, I think, when it comes to Kenneth Walker, I was one of those fans last year where he'd break off a huge run, get it down to the 5-yard line, and go,
And
"Come on, K9, finish this, punch it in
Zach
the
would
end
punch
zone,"
it
and
in.
they'd put Zach in, and I'm thinking, no, give the man, his due here. I'm pretty upset about it as well because I've got a K9 throwback jersey, which
Oh,
I'm one of
nice.
these superstitious people who like won't wear a jersey if the player's there. I mean, right there behind me, I've got a Russell Wilson,
Yeah.
action green jersey that I haven't worn since. So, yeah, I am sad. I'm also super happy for K9 because he's going to. I mean, he's going to a great coach and a great
Yeah.
team, and he's going to be that number one running back. So I get it from that standpoint. He's got his ring now, and maybe he just wants to, make his money and be that number one running back, whereas splitting it with Charbonnet.
Yeah, it was never.
Charbonnet's. No, go for it.
It was never. I think that split was never. That was it. It come across that the split was still going to be there coming into 2026. So I think that's what tipped K9 to go.
Yeah.
I think if he was destined to have that number one spot and Charbonnet purely be a backup, I think he would have stayed. But I think deep down he was told it's still the same.
Yeah, and I think we put in the same offer. I remember seeing some reporting out there about kind of offering similar to what the Chiefs did. So, he clearly took that into consideration. Charbonnet's injury came later in the season, so he's not going to be back for week one. He's going to be back for I think the estimation is somewhere around mid-season now.
Yeah, about week 9 roughly, I think I saw.
Yeah, and you got Kenny McIntosh coming off an injury, but his was earlier in the season, so he could contribute. But I think picking up Price in the draft was really key there because that's I was worried to see K9 leave because I didn't know what we were going to do. We got a really good running back in Charbonnet coming off a big injury. You don't know how he's going to start performing. But yeah, and you can't really wait and just be a air it out offense for the first 9 weeks of the year until you see what he's like. But we'll see. I think it's really interesting, and I think Walker's really one of those guys. He's got that little bit of beast mode in him. I love the way he finished runs. Always nervous when he'd run like 5 yards back behind the line of scrimmage. He must like average like an extra 50 yards per run, but just laterally. So really interesting, really interesting. Sad to see him go. Wish him all the best, but I think John's got us in a pretty good situation
Yeah,
here with Bryce, and I was hearing out of the draft that he was pretty much a number one running back in the NFL. It just so happened that he was behind the best
Jeremiah
running
Love.
back in the league. Yeah, so
Yeah,
you know, really, really interested to see how he's going. Heard lots of things coming out of rookie camp. So just we're recording this in mid-May. We're a little bit behind, but rookie mini camp's already happened. But we'll get on to that in future episodes. Don't worry. So let's go on to Alish. Are you good with K9?
yeah, I think so. I
Yeah,
think we've grasped what we need to say about him. Like, but I think we're both in agreement that John's done the right thing
yeah,
and he knows what
definitely.
he's doing.
I hope so, at least anyway.
Yeah,
Um,
me too.
but let's go on to Boye Mafe. So he was our edge rusher coming into the season. Now this was an interesting one at the start of the season for me because I was thinking, how's Uchenna Nwosu going to perform? He's been on and off the field, mostly off with injuries the last couple of years, but there was a lot of hype for him. He really showed some good stuff. So I was thinking, how is that going to work with Dareke Hall, Boye Mafe? Then we pick up Dexter Lawrence in the offseason last year. So, and Mafe, I believe, goes to the Bengals, doesn't he, to replace
Yes.
Henderson? So, Hendrickson?
Yes.
Either way. So, yeah, I've got a couple of stats here for you, actually. So, I again, I believe in Schneider. I think he's done well here. Um, we've added some more depth very recently to the line, and you've got Leo, and you've got Dexter Lawrence, Chenna, and Dareke Hall. You've got these people who are probably expecting some hefty contracts
Yeah.
soon as well. So I think it was a good loss. And just to sort of summarize it, so Boye Mafe played 17 games, started 17 games for us in the 2025 season. 31 total tackles and 2 sacks with 1 forced fumble in 17 games. Dexter Lawrence, bit older than him, some question marks around picking him up. I personally thought it was a really good,
Yeah.
really nice connection there with Aiden Dirty, who I coach for the team that one of the teams he played for in London, which is a really cool connection. But he played 16 games, so he's one less game than Boye Mafe. 53 total tackles, 6 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles. Obviously, two of them coming on like the same
Cardinals.
game
Yeah.
with
The
pickups for
2 touchdowns.
touchdowns.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just some really good numbers and a really big difference in numbers there. But I'm curious what you think to Mafe leaving, and I'm curious as well what you think of how John and Mike clearly thought, okay, maybe Chenna or someone's going to take that step this year to replace Mafe. And do you think that was the right choice?
Again, pre-draft, I was a little bit worried because obviously there wasn't there's not many good edges in the draft, and wherever good edges there were gone straight away.
Mm,
So I knew it had to be free agency or depth. It had to come from one of them, and we've just picked up Dante Fowler, who has good connections with Lawrence as well. So hopefully Lawrence feels that he's a good fit for the team too. So I hope that it's not because Lawrence come over and he come over because he wanted to win. So I hope he sort of drilled that into Dante Fowler. Come here and we'll win. And Dante Fowler hopefully he chooses the right decision to come here and win. So I think that's a good option. But I do think then we'll have to rely on Nwosu a lot more, Dareke Hall a lot more. I do think Riley Mills will, because he's fit now. I think Riley Mills will have a big year behind Leo and Byron. So I think that line is because as a pair of Leo and Byron, I think they were the best tackles in the league as a pair.
mm,
They were unbelievable, I thought. And to top it off, you had Lawrence coming off one edge, you had Mafe, Nwosu, and Dareke Hall coming off the other edge. You had a blitzing D Spoon, most games. So I as long as Dante Fowler is very similar to the way Mafe fits into the scheme, and there is a little bit of improvement from Derek Hall and Nwosu, again, I think good move. I think there's a lot of money that Bengals also paid Mafe as well.
Yeah.
And for someone who maybe going into this season isn't guaranteed to maybe start every game, you got Nwosu nipping at his heels. You got Derek Hall, who is a fantastic, gritty player who'll do all he can to start. So I think having those players sort of made John's decision pretty easy of getting rid of Mafe. So I think again it was a good move. I think that the right players are still there, because I think if we lost Mafe and Leo, or Mafe and Lawrence, or Mafe and Murphy, I think we'd be in a bit of a danger. But we've still got that core.
Definitely. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty good move. But yeah, I mean the secondary will suffer now. Do you think the miss of Coby's gonna? What do you think the miss of Coby's gonna be like?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure. Well, let me just read something really that I just thought was interesting, because you said Leo, just before I move on to Kobe Bryant, with Leo and Byron, you said, were the two best D tackles in the league. These two were spawned out of a cloning together. Listen to this: 17 games played each, right? Both of them exactly 62 total tackles each. Both of them 7 sacks as well. Just insane. Like they literally have almost the exact same stats throughout the season. I'm really happy to see that personally, because I know Byron Murphy was taking a lot of heat last year for not being the player people thought he was. They said he was going to be, Aaron Donald. And I'm excited to see that step even more this year. Excited to see Riley as well take a big step. I remember seeing a play where he just manhandled someone with one hand last year. Yeah, oh man, just incredible. But you asked about Kobe Bryant.
His first ever sack that was as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Insane.
So that was
insane.
And he was. The only reason he went down as far as he did in the draft was because of his injury.
Yeah.
But they obviously saw something good in him. So, I think them two combined, and then you got Riley Mills behind, I think that's absolutely solid. We still got Jaron Reed as well.
Yeah, completely forgot the depth we have at D line.
A lot of depth there. It's a lot.
And it's just going to help how we continue to play last year, which was, coverage sacks, by having sticky, back ends and just letting those guys go to work. They're fresh, they're on the field a lot less. So really like that coming out of them. But let's move on to Kobe Bryant. So I really like Kobe. I remember when Pete and John drafted him, and he was a corner coming out of college, and they sort of couple of years after started to transition into safety to get him some more playing time. And he played a couple of times, and I remember him coming on, and I was kind of impressed. And then I didn't know what to expect when he was the starter. Couple of injuries throughout the season let I'm gonna forget his name now. Drake. Oh no, Drake Thomas, the linebacker. Who's our backup safety? Ty Okada. That's the guy I'm thinking about. Yeah. So let Ty Okada come in, and he did really well given the games that he's played. So for me, I was a little bit shocked to see Kobe Bryant go, to be honest with you. Riq Woolen we'll get on to next. I kind of expected him to go, to be honest with you, but we'll talk more about that in a second. But I was a little bit shocked to see Kobe Bryant go. But what I immediately said to myself was, I kind of trust Mike to be able to put somebody in that spot like Ty Okada, or get a guy in a draft that he really likes. Like, they're not just going to let him go for nothing because he fit the scheme so well. But I think they probably saw somebody coming into the draft they liked. But again, like, you look at Ty Okada, who was, so underrated, and nobody really picked him up. Took him a couple of years to get developed. I think Mike's ability to develop these guys and find a position for them within his scheme He's really good. And then he goes into the draft and he picks up a bunch of DBs.
But yeah,
Um,
Bud Clark being one of them, and that's exciting. I think
yeah,
very
yeah. Dive
exciting
into it. Why do you think Bud Clark's exciting?
because I think he's literally exactly sort of what Coby was,
Mm,
and like you said about Mike, sort of molding these players into good, these maybe sort of fringe NFL players into
yeah.
good starting NFL players who now have. I can't remember Kobe's exact contract, but it was like 3 years, and pff, I can't remember much. I think it was 3 years, and he had about 20 mil. I think was it a year
With the Hawks or with the
with the
Bears?
Bears.
Yeah, he's on a 3-year, 40 million, so
A 3 or 4 was it?
25 million
Yeah,
guaranteed.
I mean that's a lot of money for a safety as well.
Yeah.
That's that's on the fringe of elite safeties. Sort of
Hmm.
that price tag. So it's um, I was very gutted to see Coby go, but then again, there's someone there. The next man up is always
Yeah.
there, and being Tayo Carter, he's always there.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, just to go on your point about the DBs as well, there's 3 cornerbacks which we picked up, 3 corners, even though we only lost 1 corner.
Hmm. Yeah.
So we lost 1 corner in Riq. We picked up Dansby, which I think as a 7th round, I thought was very very good because I thought he would go a little bit quicker than that. Um, Andre Fuller and Julian Neal, and then Bud Clark. So, like you said, there's 4 DBs, and I think Seattle has got that DNA of molding good DBs.
Mm, yeah.
You go through the history of DBs from Seattle, and we've always had a good defensive coach who knows how to spot lengthy players and players who can sort of fit well with each other. And I think that's exactly what's gone on again this year. I think that Bud Clark one, it could be Nick Imanwari another season like that, where
Yeah.
he's going to absolutely ball out. Um, I'm excited to see Julian Neal. I don't know where. I don't know if he play him in the slot or not or outside. Um, but I think that DB room now is looking sharp. I mean, to lose Coby Bryant and Riq Woolen and to still say is quite sharp, that takes some again good drafting skills by John. The free
Hmm.
agency because we picked that. I can't remember I can't say his name. Iniguabe.
Let me
That
have a look here.
that the corner we picked. It was only a 1 year deal, so I think they're probably testing the waters with him. Um, the one from Washington, Benogne, I think his name is.
Oh, yes. Yeah, 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 yeah.
I mean, that was only a 1 year deal, so I don't know what they
Yeah.
plan on doing with that. But he had some, looking at his tape from Washington, it was his it was good, but I
Yeah.
don't know what they plan on doing with him. But I'm very confident that DB room this year is going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting, because like we have added some bits to that DB room, but then I just trust, like you said, Mike's molding of that as well. Like,
Yeah,
maybe these guys are going to sit and wait. The way that he used Imam Wari last year, everybody kind of had an idea coming out of draft that he'd be like a nickel safety and he'd play right down in the box like Cam Chancellor,
yeah,
and that's how we kind of play. And it's like, yeah, I mean, he did great, but I wonder if he just kind of flips the switch this year and just puts him back and puts him at like strong safety and just makes teams second guess what they think
yeah,
about how Mike runs his defense. I really wonder if he does something like that. Now, I don't know if it would fully work. I think we've got some really nice corners, and I think with drafting 3 corners in a draft, I have to be thinking that one of these guys he's probably going to convert into a safety,
yeah,
and use him like that. But I think it's really interesting as well. You got Josh Jobe who re-signed with the
yeah,
team. Um, so I think that's really interesting. He started, I think, most of the games over Riq
yeah.
Woolen this year. So Riq Woolen
He
only
did.
started 7 or so, I believe. Um, And well, now that we've moved on to it, or now we're talking about it, let's just go ahead and talk about Riq Woolen leaving, going to the Eagles. Now, dare I say, is he a perfect fit for the Eagles because he likes to trash talk a little bit?
He does. I mean, it almost cost us the game against the
It did.
Rams,
Yeah,
which I was talking to my guys. I was raging inside. I was like, "What is this guy doing?" I mean, I'll always have love for Riq. I think that rookie season, um, where he picked off that pass where he was covering Brady, and the run back against Detroit, he's had some special Seahawks moments.
yeah,
Um, but I do think he was also, I think what tipped Mike and John to get rid of him was that trash talk thing against the Rams, and the very very next play, they scored a touchdown on Riq.
yeah,
You can't, like, that's like non-NFL. You can't be doing that. So I think that probably that probably signed his name to get out of the building, which is, it's a rubbish way to get out. But Mike also gives me the vibe that he hasn't got time for guys like that.
yeah.
If you're not going to give it your all and win on the pitch, win on the field, I don't think Mike will have time for it. And I think that's a perfect example to everybody else at the team, because I know he went for a decent bit of money, but I don't think Seattle ever had the intention of ever paying him. I think they were
No,
just waiting for him to go.
yeah, I think you're right as well. Like the mission over BS stuff and the way they take the egos out of it. I mean, you've got Witherspoon, who is one of the funniest and biggest trash talkers on the team,
Yeah,
and he can bring it in and he can rein it in, and he knows when to trash talk. And I think seeing that from Reek going over to that sideline after executing a play, you know, Mike's just celebrate when the game's over,
yeah,
talk your smack when the game's over kind of
yes,
guy. So I think you're right. I think that that was the stamp on it, and it was pretty much okay. Thanks for the years. I mean, some of his coverage numbers were elite. They're
yeah,
so good. His speed, his length, his managed to is the way he recovers when he's down, just with his size and his speed,
yeah,
was really good. So I think he's gonna. I think he works really well for the Eagles. Besides being such a massive trash talking organization with their head coach, but I think he works as well because that's something that they lacked last year.
yeah.
um I would
It
I
sort of
just
it
go for
sort
it.
of resembles Quinion a little bit,
Yeah,
Reek,
yeah, absolutely.
and to
Yeah.
have two lengthy speedsters on the outside,
Hmm.
and in the middle you got Reed Blankenship and Cooper.
Yeah,
You know, that's that's a nasty secondary
yeah,
that has serious
it really
potential.
is. Yeah, I just hope for his sake that he manages to keep it in a little bit, because I don't want his like trash talk and his stuff like that. He was
Get him out.
benched by Pete. He was benched
Yeah,
by Mike a couple of times. I don't want that to kind of tank his career if he's in an organization that will like let him do that.
yeah,
That's my worry for Reek. And then we've got another departure. Now I like this guy. He contributed mostly on special teams, but had some good catches on the offense. But Dareke Young,
yeah,
um, when he was not injured last year and he was coming down, he was a huge contributor on special teams.
yeah,
But I think for John and for Mike, this was probably the least risky move that they made. But
yes,
he was a sneaky guy, not like headline worthy, but definitely worth acknowledging here.
yeah. I think we'll all remember him for that. The muffed punt against the Rams, but
Yeah,
you know muffs happen quite a lot in the NFL. But it's who's there, and he seems to always be there. He seems to be the first guy down the pitch,
hmm,
and especially when you're not a superstar in the NFL, you make if you're on special teams, people give it their all, and that's where you make your name. You make your name as a guy who is willing to get on that field quicker than you can blink, and
yeah,
and Young was one of them. So to have a good gunner in the NFL, go you do. They have to replace him very well, because I think special teams last year was a massive contribution to why we won.
Yeah,
Not just a Super Bowl,
definitely.
but a lot of games. A lot of games are decided by special teams. The Shaheed, the one against the Niners, the one against the Rams.
Yeah,
Second half when we were 6-all against the Falcons, he balls kicked off to him down straight. That's it. And effectively the game was over then because the Falcons turned the ball over. Eamon Mori, I think, picked it, and
yeah,
then we scored again, and then we scored again. So to turn teams with special teams is quite key, and I think missing someone like that, we got to have a very good replacement because special teams isn't just about Shaheed running the ball back. I think it is a good gunner like Dareke will be missed quite a lot, I think.
yeah. I think you raise a really good point there, and I wonder who they do get to sort of fill in that gap. And I'm sure they have a bunch of guys on the practice squad who'd be happy to take over that spot, but even some of maybe undrafted free agents that they picked up after the draft, maybe even some of those corners, like you said. I
Yeah,
mean, Josh Jobe, we mentioned him. He re-signed 24 million for him. Fourth lowest completion percentage when throwing it his way last year.
yeah,
So, but I
impressive.
remember he was contributing on special teams before he took the field. Um, so I'd be really interested. Nehemiah Pritchett as well. Like, he was one of our gunners last year. I wonder if he steps up a little bit and takes over the role that Dareke Young kind of did. He made an impact when he was off with his injuries. So I really do wonder where they go there because it is so underrated. But I also kind of believe in Jay Harbaugh as well.
Yeah,
Um, he's got a really good group, and Mike says nothing but good things about him
yeah,
constantly. So I imagine that he's already got this figured out. I'm sure he was a big part
yeah,
of that. So I really do think that there'll be another guy there, but still a really good player that's gone and a guy that contributed is not usually like, massively in the headlines, but his contributions were definitely felt on the
yeah,
field.
yeah. I think a lot of fans don't realise the sort of grit that comes in of second string players or gunners or
Mm,
people sort of blocking for kicks. They don't understand sort of the impact that these guys have on the team. So to lose a guy like that is quite impactful, I think.
yeah,
Just to
yeah,
lose that sort of like willingness and want. Some players don't have it, but some players do, and he was one who did, and he'd
yeah,
give his all. So it is a sad miss, but at the end of the day, this is a business.
yeah, definitely. You're right there. Speaking of business and speaking of spending that money and some re-signings, let's go over a couple. We've already
Yeah,
spoke about Josh Jobe, so I don't know if you want to dive deeper into Jobe. I don't know if you feel like we've covered that already.
yeah, we sort of covered it. I mean, there's a guy again who let his ball do the talk. He
Yeah.
wasn't a guy who comes out on media or a guy who trash talks on fields. He's a
Hmm.
guy who does his job and sits back down, puts his helmet on the stand, and goes back out again. So,
Yeah.
and I think fourth, because if you're not first in completions, in allowing completion, sorry, no one wants to know.
Yeah.
But to be fourth in a league with the cornerbacks we have now, we've got some seriously elite cornerbacks in our league now, and even experienced elite people, not just elite young people. So to be up there top four, that's quite impressive, and I don't think that was a massively expensive deal either. So again, I think they work wonders there. If he has a good couple of seasons, I do think that his next deal could be a big deal, probably away from Seattle.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think so as well, and I hope I hope he keeps it up. There was a couple of times where on the field where he wasn't, he was behind on a couple of plays, but I mean, for the amount of time he did spend on the field to have that kind of stats to back up his play,
Yeah,
I think it's really good, and I think he could really just take an even bigger step this year, having
yeah,
more playing time. I'm sure the rookies and the amount of corners we drafted probably lit a fire underneath him as well, but yeah, it's really interesting seeing him play opposite Witherspoon. I'm really hoping as well, on a side note, I'm really hoping Witherspoon takes a big leap. His first couple of
Yeah,
seasons were really great, and he did play great last year, but I'd love to see him get the stats to back up how good he
yeah,
plays. Just because, like you said, if you're not first on that list, no one really cares, right?
no,
I'd love for him to lead the league in a couple of these areas.
yeah,
He just plays with so much heart every single play. So, on a side note, I'd love to see Witherspoon get up there
yeah.
and get some really big stats this year.
I think he will. I think sort of
Yeah,
he was on notice towards the latter end of last season. So to begin the season on notice, I think people will probably start because a guy like that who can blitz off the edge and also cover a nickel and cover deep and cover middles and cover third. That's a guy who can do it all, and he's proven it.
yeah,
He's
yeah,
easily proven it. So I do think he's going to have this off-season deal, isn't he? He's going to have, he's probably going to be the second or third, possibly first highest paid corner in the league when he gets his extension. And I do think it's thoroughly deserved, and I think he will be on watch for a lot of teams because he's some player.
yeah, yeah. Definitely, I agree with you there.
Same
Um,
as same as Shahid.
yeah,
Looking at
yeah. I was
Shahid
gonna
now,
say next up, Shahid. So
what a fantastic. I mean that that trade mid-season I thought was
mm,
did not fit Seattle's identity at all. I
yeah,
thought why we're not a deep threat team, but then he changed us, I think, because
yeah,
he could also run deep and get the ball. He could also catch the ball at 5 yards, and he could also run deep just to distract teams for JSN to get the ball.
yeah,
And I think the special team speaks for itself. I mean, that that's one of the most influential trade deadline deals to win a Super Bowl. And, I'm not talking about trade deadline deals to change a team. I'm talking about one who can win you a Super Bowl. That is probably up there with the best ever trades
yeah.
because you some team could trade for Brady, but if they lose the Super Bowl, it doesn't really matter.
Hmm.
This guy massively helped us win a Super Bowl, massively, and I think it's
Yeah,
a good. I think for I mean, you might want to elaborate, but I think it's a good fit for JSN.
yeah, I do. We started off the season so hot in terms of JSN stats, and it was because teams were still trying to figure him out, and he's so elusive. He's so sticky. The route runner part of him is just
Yeah,
ridiculous. But his smoothness, I'm a huge fan of Doug Baldwin, and he reminds me
yeah,
so much of Doug Baldwin in the way that Baldwin used to, use his skills at the line, his like NBA skills. Used to
yeah,
pretend that he was dribbling at the line to create separation was for me unmatched, and it's a little bit sad that the receivers at in that version of the Seahawks never got the props that they deserved. They
no,
were never leading receivers, and part of that was because Russell Wilson would like to do his little bit of magic and stuff like that, but they were always so reliable,
yeah,
and especially Darwin. But the point I'm laboring to get to here is JSN reminds me so much of Doug Baldwin with his elusiveness and his smoothness at the line. Like he can just do anything. When he lines up in the backfield, like
yeah,
to throw him off. I mean, that was a Clint Kubiak special, that one.
yeah,
So I don't know how much we can contribute to JSN, but just and then how he'd get deep, just his dummy corner posts that he
yeah.
would run,
They're good.
and the way I'm sure as a DB, like how you teach DBs to stay on receivers is watch the hips, right? The
Yeah,
hips don't lie, but he just somehow manages to just twist his hips
yeah,
and then just completely reverse direction. So I think eventually over the season, people thought, oh, well, this guy's just going deep. He's just running these corners. He's just running these post routes all the time. We need to stop that. And they started bracket coveraging him, which we saw big into the season. And Cup wasn't really doing that much. He was doing what he can, but the guy's getting a bit older now,
Yeah,
so he was making some nice catches, but he wasn't having the most separation. He had a lot of contested catches last
yeah,
year. So they needed that guy. And originally, at the start of the season, it was Torrey Horton, right?
yeah,
Not even still sure what his injury is. I think it's something in the shin, but he's been out almost the whole
yeah,
season. Um, so he was breaking deep, and I really hope he comes back strong for us next year to have strong 4 really good receivers.
yeah,
I think would be great. But you're right. Shaheed comes in, he takes the top off of a lot of defenses, whether he's even catching the ball or not.
yeah,
Um, I do really hope he gets more up to speed and more use this year. Um, just because I think he's got a little time to get sort of on the play, but we saw him use more in the playoffs and use more in the Super Bowl. And I think he can really start to become that as well. And I think you have a really good approach because they can't bracket coverage him, they can't bracket coverage JSN and Cooper Cup running, shallow routes and crosser routes across the middle. So I'm hoping, the passing attack this year I'm hoping it's really strong anyway.
yeah. I think it will. I think with AJ Barner sort of coming off a good year, I think having an offensive coordinator that used to work with Kittle and make Kittle good, I think that sort of I'm very optimistic for AJ Barner this year, and he's a gritty guy. He played
Yeah.
for Timberwolves for the Wolverine, sorry, Michigan.
Yeah.
He's played in some good teams. He's had some good coaches, and I think this year is one of the years he'll have an opportunity to be sort of top 5 in the league.
Yeah.
He was very underrated last year. He came up with some seriously clutch plays, and I think this year he'll take a step up. And like you say, if the 4 wide receivers work well together, you got to worry about AJ Barner as well.
Yeah. I
So this,
genuinely
sorry, you go
sorry,
on.
go for it. I was gonna say, like, I genuinely worry about who they can cover. And it might
Yeah,
sound a bit cocky, but I genuinely don't mean it in that way because
yeah,
how are you gonna keep a safety back to, play deep coverage, play cover one, cover two, to make sure that Shaheed or JSN don't go over the top, but then, make sure that Barner isn't getting loose or Cup
Coop,
isn't.
yeah,
Yeah, and then you don't have a running back out the backfield. Charbonnet is a good pass catching back,
yeah,
and I've been hearing reports out of camp. It's not been highly explored when he was in college, but I'm hearing Price has got really good hands as well.
yeah.
So
I've seen the same.
how do you know where to cover from that? And I think as well, Barner's a great blocking tight end. Obviously, he's got the barnyard, the Seahawks version of the tush push.
Yeah,
His cadence was great. He got a lot of people to jump off sides for that. And then also, I think Arroyo, is in a really good spot, like you said, with an offensive coordinator who comes from a tight end room. A
yeah.
lot was said about Arroyo being like the speed of a receiver and the size of a tight end. I
Yeah,
just wonder what like 12 personnel with the Seahawks would look like next year as
I,
well.
I, I think I think even if you have Coop or Shaheed and JSN out there with Elijah Arroyo and AJ Barner, I think teams would rather face 4 wide receivers than face them 2 and then the 2 tight ends,
Hmm.
because them 2 tight ends they're big, massive dudes, and they can, like you said, they can block as well. So they could do something exactly like Sorbert did for the 2-pointer, block, peel out, and then get that 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 yards. So
Yeah.
I think especially with a tight end related OC coming in, I think it could be. I think we could see a lot of tight end packages this year, and I
Yeah.
think it will be them 2 will be utilized a lot. I think, which is good because it's them 2 can ball.
Yeah, definitely agree with you there. We got a bit sidetracked talking tight end talk there, so we'll kind of talk through these last couple of guys quite quickly. So one I want to kind of put a spotlight on is Drake Thomas. Two
Yeah,
years, 8 million for them,
that's a brilliant
for
deal.
him, should I say? Yeah, a really really good deal. I mean, I had a lot of love for Tyrese Knight, and he came in and he picked up those 2 fumbles for a touchdown that Dexter Lawrence caused. But I think there was a little bit of an edge missing from Tyrese, and maybe a little bit of sort of game knowledge
Yeah,
and the intelligence about it, which I think Drake really had. He's a little bit undersized, but I think he works really well for the speed opposite Jones.
yeah, yeah. I think Drake was a very good signing, and he was one of those who I'd have been gutted most about losing
Mm,
because I don't know what it is about what Mike does to these guys, but he just makes them all want to play like so hard and so well. Like
yeah.
it's insane what he does to these guys to make them want to play so good. And he's Drake was nothing a couple of years ago, and now look at him. He's signing. He's a starting linebacker for the Super Bowl champions, and he was very good last year. He wasn't just there by default. He sort of earned his
No.
spot. So I like that about him. I like the fact that he sort of earned his spot. He was there purely because he balled.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. He was big special teams coordinator before, contributor before that, and then yeah, he's been a sound linebacker. A couple of smaller re-signings, but might prove quite costly, and really is part of the glue in the team as well. Brady Russell,
Yeah,
ex tight end turned fullback. I know we
yeah.
signed Robbie Oots,
Robert
picked him
Oots.
up in the draft last year. But Brady played way better than I thought he would
Yeah,
last season. So I think that's another huge signing. Big special teams guy as well.
yeah,
Like we said before about having Dareke Young go, this would be a big loss for special teams. So huge
yeah.
special teams guy. Chaz Surratt, another
Another
guy
one.
that I've always liked. Yeah, you got anything to say about Chaz?
Same with you. He's sort of one of those guys that he was like the Slater of the Patriots. He was
Hmm.
that guy you just want. He is just sort of someone you want in your special teams, and nothing goes wrong because he's there.
Yeah,
And he's one of
yeah.
those guys, and we talk about glue guys and people like that, but he really is one. And I think signing him was not expensive but important.
Yeah.
And again, they got it done.
Yeah, I agree. And then last one, Brandon Peely as well. Um, Another defensive tackle, some more depth there. Had some
Yeah,
more playing time towards the end of the season. Thought he did well. He's a big guy. I've
yeah,
always had a little bit of love for Brandon. So I'm hoping that he gets in that rotation and he really shows up. But
yeah,
he's really good in some situations. Like he's a real situational guy. So it's going to be hard for him to fit in with four D tackles that are
yeah.
all playing at a really good
Really
level.
good level.
But let's see how he contributes this
Yeah,
year. Cool. And then let's get into a couple of our hot takes for the 2026 season. So, do you think that free agency was nailed? Do you think Schneider got it right? Do you think there was a little more meat on the bone left there? What do you think?
I think pre-draft, I thought they underachieved a little bit.
Hmm.
I think purely because the signings we made were not impactful for the players that we lost.
Yeah.
Um, but then again, you sort of realise that the depth that the team has. So yes, Woolen's gone, but Josh Jobe was still there.
Hmm.
So when you dig deep into it, um, I'd say we could be satisfied with what happened with free agency. But
Hmm.
post draft, especially with Jadarian Price, Bud Clark, those two picks I thought were very very good and very needy for what we for the team. And getting Bo Stevens in as well. That's a guard. I'd imagine Gray's able to move to right guard now. To let Bo Stevens play left guard. So I think the free agency I was satisfied with it, but with the draft, the combination of the draft, I think I'm very pleased with where we're at right now. So I
Yeah,
think,
and you're quite happy with who Bo's teaming up with in terms of staff as well, weren't you?
oh yeah, John Benton. I
Yeah.
think, I think, look what he did to Gray's Able last year.
Hmm.
I know Gray's Able was a good guard coming out of college, but he slid under the radar a lot, and his statistics are very very good, and he can move as well. There's a lot of screens where he was out in front. The big K9 pass against the Niners, he was up front blocking. And I think that's one thing that we've had to get right very soon to win the Super Bowl was the offensive line. And I think now having Charles Cross, I think it'll be Bo Stevens left guard, Sundell centre, Graziable right guard, and Abe Lucas right tackle. I mean, that is probably the best O-line we've had since Max Unger was there.
Yeah, I agree. I was literally just about to say it's weird talking about the Seahawks and talking about a good offensive line as well.
Yeah.
You know, literally since that Jimmy Graham for Max Unger trade, I don't think, you know, Justin Britt tried everything he could, but he just didn't have the pieces around him. Even when we got I'm blanking on his name. Brown. He was a left guard, veteran left guard in the latter Russell Wilson years. You know, he was solid, but like you can't put one good player on the offensive line and expect it all to work.
No,
so I think you're right.
That I think that happened every year. Like 1 year we picked up Gabe Jackson from Raiders, brilliant guard, but again we just picked up a guard. No one else, just a guard. So it didn't fit. But I think this year it fits, and I'm hoping if John Benton can do to Bo Stevens what John Benton did to Graziable, I think we're in shout for a extremely good offensive line this year.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you on that one. I love the way that Gray played last year. I love the way that he had enough, knowledge and understanding of the team to take those tips over to Leonard Williams on the sideline. Show some real maturity from him there as well. And the team again that Mike's built for young guys, for rookies to be able to go over and do that and feel comfortable doing that. But I think you're right. For me, on a funny note, I'm just excited to see somebody take over from Anthony Bradford, because there was so many. He has a highlight reel of him stood in the middle of no man's land while Sam Darnold's running for his life. He's a big guy and he's great on some aspects of O-line play, but he gets in the way a little bit when he's pulling. He's not the most mobile as well. So he struggles, climbing, and he struggles, shedding a block. And you saw the contrast of that really last year with Graziable, who could pull with ease and felt like he could shed a block with ease as well. So I'm really excited to see how they figure out the O-line. Gray can play both right and left. So I do think you're probably right. He'll probably put him next to Cross, and Sundell favor that left-hand side, and then kind of let Gray go to town on the right with Abe Lucas. So I'm really looking forward to that. For me, if I was to rate the free agency and draft, I'd probably give it a high 7, just because I think you're really right. We lost a lot, and I don't think we made a big splash in free agency to cover that. But again, like, I trust Mike and I trust John to mold those guys into what they need them to be. So that's kind of my rating. One of my biggest concerns coming out of the Seahawks this year, I'm always skeptical, right? I'm kind of like a glass half full kind of guy, where it's so hard to get to a Super Bowl. And how can we kind of expect them to get back there next year? I think it's going to be hard. The schedule looks pretty okay. That was kind of just released this week, so the schedule doesn't look too bad. But again, what can the schedule or strength of schedule even tell you? You don't know what any of these teams are going to be like once the year comes around. So I think running back depth does scare me, because again, you probably don't have McIntosh and you probably don't have Charbonnet for you don't have Charbonnet probably until at least week 9. So how quickly can McIntosh come back, and how does he feel after his injury? How much can we use Price and hope that he doesn't get hurt? So running back depth does scare me. The change of OC frightens me a little bit, because I loved Clint and him going straight to the Raiders. I mean, I understand it. I wish him all the best of luck with the Raiders. My brother's a Raiders fan. I'd hate to see him happy, but it is what it is. But I think, how do we work with a new OC? Do we get people better? Does a couple of players take a step back? You never really know. So, but what's one of your like glaring concerns coming out of the leading up to the start of the season now?
I think running back was one of them, because I know we signed Emmanuel Wilson as well, but I was concerned because I thought we were going to pick up Price, but there was obviously no guarantee with that. So if we didn't pick up Price, we were stuck with Helani, Wilson, and possibly McIntosh for about 9 weeks.
Yeah.
And who's to say Zach Charbonnet is going to be the same when he comes back? So that was a serious concern. But I think Jadarian Price is in a very good position, because he's got now 8 or 9 weeks to show why he's one of the best running backs in that draft.
Yeah.
We know he is, but he's still got to show it. And I think if he does show it, I think that'll bring a lot of relief for us, because we run the ball very well last year. We passed the ball very well. If we can't run very well and we start relying on the pass, or we can't pass very well and start relying on the run, I don't know what that's going to be like.
Yeah, we kind of need to be two-dimensional. We can't be one-dimensional with our offense. Like Sam does so well in play action, he needs that run game to support the play action pass.
So I think it's very key that Price gets out the gates very, very fast, just so it opens up the offense. Because if it doesn't open up the offense, I think the biggest red flag for me is possibly the offense.
Yeah,
I think the line is very good. I think Sam is looking sharp again. I think we're, like you said, with the new OC, like, is he going to try and change too much? So that does scare me a bit. What doesn't scare me is the defense. I'm very, very, very sold that is going to be top 2 or 3 again.
Yeah.
But I'd say offensively as a whole, I'm not saying that there's holes or anything anywhere, but I think there's a couple of factors that could contribute to a failure, let's say.
Yeah.
Whereas, I think line could be okay, but if Bo Stevens fails, does Grazier able to go back to left guard and Bradford come back to right guard?
Yeah, interesting one.
If Sam declined, what would happen then? If Price doesn't come up very well, what happens then? If I'm very confident JSM will again have another year, but what if Shaheed and Coop can't pick up the slack?
Yeah.
I think I'm a lot more skeptical offensively than I am defensively this year.
Yeah, I think it's fair points. I was happy about Sam. I thought he did well. I thought the over exaggeration of how bad he was going to be was a little bit. It was just a little bit too much. But there is a worry about, does he decline with a new OC? Clint
Possibly.
and KOC were quite similar in that way. And I trust that the Seahawks have kind of brought somebody in who's going to be similar enough. But you never know. But then again, like, I wonder how the backups are playing. We drafted I'm forgetting his name again, but we drafted that young guy last year who was a runner. He can pull the ball away and tuck it and run. Got a lot of comparisons to Lamar Jackson. So if you're telling me like we've got another version of Lamar Jackson on the team, I'm not as worried. But
yeah,
exactly. Can we use it in the right way? The Ravens have seen that where they haven't been able to get through the playoffs, really. Like, how are they using Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, because I think with Jalen Monroe you're on about, aren't you?
Yes, yeah, that's the guy.
So, that guy's got an arm as well. So he would, if he decided to, if Mike decided to bring him in to start, I think that would massively change the offense, purely because he can launch a ball, plus he's a runner. Again, takes that two-dimensional, takes the one-dimensional aspect of it away and creates it then to a two-dimensional, which is what we work well with. I think if I've said it again, I said it before, so I'll say it again, we can't be one-dimensional, because I think we will get found out.
Yeah, I think you're right. So let's end with a bold prediction from each of us. Do you have something? If not, I can give you some time and I can go ahead and pop one out there.
Bold prediction.
I'll give you a second to think about it.
Yeah.
And I think mine, I'm still skeptical of our success after the Super Bowl, but I believe that we'll sweep the Niners. And that's my bold prediction for the year.
Sweep the Niners. I think that's I think what we did to them last year. I think that's more realistic than bold.
Yeah, you think so? Not bold enough?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I think
they've been in our heads for a long time. I think
Yeah.
when Kyle Shanahan took over, I don't think we won a lot of games against the Niners, but I think now that's kind of flipped a little bit. Maybe a bolder one is probably winning the West, but I'd kind of expect that after a Super Bowl year. But again, you got to be skeptical about these things.
The Rams as well, that
Yeah,
they brought in Trent McDuffie as well, so that's a good.
yeah,
They've improved drastically, whereas I think
absolutely.
Seattle have probably stayed.
Yeah,
Maybe a little bit less. So
yeah.
my bold one, I think my bold prediction this year is that Sam will finish top 6 in yards,
hmm
top 6 in touchdowns, and top 6 in passer rating.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think he'd be an all-round top 6 QB. I think what I've seen from his off season has been very good. What we saw from him towards the end of last year in the playoffs was neat and tidy. We're the first team to win a Super Bowl without turning the ball over in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Again, I think that he will click this year, and I think he'll have a very, very good season. I just hope everyone else around him sort of plays well as well, because I think that's the key this year. I think, what does Sam do?
Yeah. No, I think that's a pretty good bold prediction there. I'll throw just another kind of one in the works. I think Price could lead the league in rushing yards.
Yeah.
I think that's a very behind the offensive line, and given the time that he'll have, I think that's a very, doable thing for him. But again, rookie to come in and lead the league in rushing yards, we'll see. But that's another one out there for you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's been episode 1 of the Seahawks Across the Pond. In the bag. So brand new show. Means everything to Connor and I if that you've listened. We hope that you've enjoyed it. We hope that you subscribe, that you like, comment, give us some of your bold predictions for the season. It helps us more than you know. So yeah, anything on your side, Connor, to end this with?
It's been a very good episode 1. I think we've delved into a lot of good topics that off season, teams in the off season sort of rely on. Free agency in the draft, I think we've sort of spoke about that quite good and very in depth as well, which we can do at later episodes as well. But yeah, but I think next episode we'll do the draft, break down the picks, what needs were going in as well. So how John and Mike sort of approached the draft class and what they thought the needs and wants were. And yeah, we'll see what they think if we sort of set up to defend ourselves or not.
Yeah, no, I think that's going to be a great episode. I'm really looking forward to it. And until then, from across the pond, go Hawks.